Aladdin 2019. Okay, I'm going to be honest from the start. To say that myself and my kids did anything other than completely loathe most of these Disney live action remakes would be a complete lie. They've been very underwhelming to say the least. However, I went to check out a film, Aladdin 2019 by Guy Ritchie, which is a remake of a film I loved so much as a child that myself and my sister that Christmas after convinced my mum and dad that we had to pre-order the sequel Return of Jafar at Blockbuster Video because they were definitely going to sell out of Return of Jafar, that they did that. That's how much we loved Aladdin. So Aladdin 2019, is it any good? Okay, so how to talk about this film? Well, for me it's like this. Did you ever see the collaboration between Walt Disney and Salvador Dali? Disney Dali, I believe it was called. If you haven't seen it, you definitely should. It's brilliant. But what I'm getting at is this. That is so very Salvador Dali, but so very Disney. And within that is where the magic lies. That sort of middle ground between the both. It's brilliant. It's so Disney, but so Dali. Now, I'm not saying this film holds a candle to that. It doesn't. But it is such a Guy Ritchie film. It's got his shots, his quick dialogue, his ideas, his way of doing things simple, but with big impact. But like it's shot through some sort of a Disney filter. It's so Guy Ritchie, but it's also Disney. And this works for me. It is by far for me the first time one of these live action Disney remakes has worked. And I truly believe that's why. It does actually feel like more than one person's ideas here. And it works. Now the cast, again, like this is something I feel is very sort of Guy Ritchie influenced. Let's talk about young Jafar. Young Jafar for me, when I first saw that was going to be a thing, I wasn't happy about that at all. I didn't think that was going to work. I didn't think he'd be menacing enough, and I didn't feel he'd be a threat. However, within this Guy Ritchie context, yeah, he does work. It's his dialogue and his sort of underhandedness and scheming part of the character that they've drawn out, which really does work within the context of these characters and this casting. So both Aladdin and the Sultan, they steer quite close to the original characters with the casting. You do believe that they are who they're telling you they are. And maybe in the case of Aladdin, there's a little bit less character growth there. But that's kind of okay in this context because he looks and he feels like Aladdin. Exactly the same for the Sultan. Naomi Scott as Jasmine, for me, however, was by far the standout performance of the film. She really sells it. She's great, and she's got a very good character arc here. And on that subject, something that always bothered me about the original, as a young naive kid unaware of sort of social and political views and opinions on things like children's TV characters and film characters, something that always bothered me was, well, why can't Jasmine be Sultan when he dies or whatever? Like, what? She's his only child. Why? Surely she's the obvious choice and the heir to his throne. Young naive me didn't understand why that wasn't okay. But if she married a douchebag or even Aladdin, who, let's be honest, is a liar and a thief throughout most of this story, he could be king straight away. Hey, he's Sultan without question as long as she marries him. I always thought that was weird. I guess 10-year-old me didn't understand, things like succession or sexism within the ruling classes. However, in 2019, she finally gets the payoff that her character deserves. And it works. What it doesn't feel like is part of this wider trend in Hollywood at the moment, where we're getting a lot of male characters substituted for female characters. This is what some people perceive as positive discrimination. This is where obviously we're favouring female characters over male characters, and in doing so, mucking up what is a great original piece of work. However, look, representation is an important thing, and that's what this film does well. It doesn't handle feminism as a gimmick which is there for Disney to cash in on. It handles the important issue and representation well in a way which enriches and enhances the story that is already there. It's both empowering and entertaining whilst remaining loyal to the fans and the source material. And isn't that more important? Look, let's talk about the big blue elephant in the room. Okay, Robin Williams is the genie. That's just the thing, he's the genie. However, so is Will Smith. And I think that it's like this. My kids talk about it like this. There's film genie and there's cartoon genie. Both are allowed to exist. Okay, so who else were they going to get that was able to invoke a bit of nostalgia, like Will Smith, fill that space on the screen, which is a big, tall order, like Will Smith, have some kind of musical ability, and I mean some, Will Smith, and be really, really charismatic and entertaining whilst bringing some heart to it? Oh, Will Smith. That's it. It's a completely different performance, yeah, and again, much like with Jasmine, he's still respectful of the original performance, and there are nods to it, but he does his own thing with it, and that's exactly how he needed to do it. And again, I think that's probably partly down to Guy Ritchie's direction on that. I think he's great. Is the genie CGI bad? Yeah, it's bad, but it's not as terrible as the first few trailers led us to believe. And after a while of watching it, you kind of okay with it, you do lean into it. For me, it's almost a different character. It's a different genie with a different story. In fact, even a slightly different arc. And that's okay. And for me, in fact, if I think of the film as a whole like that, like a different universe, almost an Elseworld take on it, it does work. All of the big song and dance numbers that happen throughout the film are done in such a way and sort of staged and shot in a way that make you feel like you're watching a big Aladdin parade at Disneyland, or perhaps you're watching a stage show. They're done in that way, big set pieces, lots of extras, and it's great. That's really good. That's what you should feel when you're watching a film like this. Look, ultimately, if we have to have these Disney remakes of our childhood favourites, then I hope they learn from the box office numbers with this one, and they steer away from the CGI beasts and cats and dogs, and they do more staging and more sort of freedom of expression from their directors, and also ultimately a little bit more heart. That's what we got from this film. I give Aladdin 2019 a solid 7 out of 10. If you haven't seen it, it is a fun day out for all the family and is coming pretty soon to DVD. So Aladdin 2019, let me know what you think of it. I definitely think it's one of the better Disney remakes. If you like what I do, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.